Hello and welcome to Inside Music Curation. We're the team at Feed Media Group. I'm joined here by my esteemed colleagues, the Feed FM Curation team. And we get together once a month to talk all things music curation. And today, the title of today's episode, Not Your Mom's New Age Music. So, we'll just kind of start there and, maybe throw out, what comes to your mind when you think new age music, right? Is it Mannheim Steamroller? Is it Enya? Is it Brian Eno? Something else? Or maybe you think about, ambient music, or you think about some of the chill playlists that are out there on streaming services. And while some of the algorithms may somewhat inaccurately group some of these things together, like ambient and lo-fi and new age, today's functional music, which is what we here at Feed FM deal with, is, approached very differently from some of the new age compositions of the 20th century. So we thought we'd kind of dive into some of the differences between maybe new age and today's functional music, what we're doing here at Feed FM, and how music is powerful in driving certain outcomes. So Juan, maybe you can kick us off and tell us what you think, some of the main differences are between, functional or wellness music versus something like new age music that we know.
Yeah, and new age music is a super big term, a lot of different subgenres, especially today, that exist inside of it. But I think with new age music, it's really more of an artistic intent, where Enya was trying to get you to feel like you were like Irish Spring mode, on a waterfall, just like singing your brains out and just kind of like having that feel. It was very much like an artist showing you the way, whereas the wellness music is more allowing you to show your own way, right? It's a way for you to utilize music to have a certain outcome, whether it be focus, whether it be sleeping, whether it be, any other types of things that, music can help with, right? So that is honestly the biggest difference between the two.
Yeah, it sounds like really, from your perspective, new age is more artistic, where functional music is more utilitarian. Like functional music is created for the end user versus something that's, very artist centric. Mike, I loved your analogy for new age music.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, and I feel like maybe it's just because I didn't have lunch yet at the time, but new age music. When I think of that, I think of trying to feed broccoli to a toddler. Like they don't. It's a texture thing. They don't like it. It's kind of smelly, and sometimes you need to kind of cover it with some melted cheese in order to make it palatable. That's what I equate new age. The title of new age music.
Yeah, I got a little bit of flack for using new age in the title of today's episode, and so yeah, the comparison to broccoli, even though I love broccoli, totally makes sense. And I think you can repackage it by melting some cheese over it and calling it wellness music. But what we do here at Feed FM is really tap into the science behind music and what elements allow music to activate different parts of our brains. Maybe you want to talk a little bit, Stens, about how we're leveraging that science in the music that we are curating for functional reasons today.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike's right that these days new age has kind of a played out connotation, or like something that you don't really want to have. I mean, I'm old enough that I grew up in the 80s when this catch-all of new age was the thing. There was I didn't have a mom that was really into it, but I had an aunt that loved George Winston. And so I think, like, directionally, I think the need for this kind of vibey, light classical, or like kind of cool, folksy, relaxing music, like, it's been around for a long, long time. And I think in the 80s there was a sweet spot moment, and the need for people to have music that helps them to chill is still there. And the big change that's happened is neuroscience. Our understanding of the brain has radically changed in the last 40 years. And I can't pretend to be an expert in that, but I think what's interesting is that when we started talking about wellness music, because we mostly work with fitness and wellness companies, so we have a real keen, pressing interest in doing this properly. we enlisted a Stanford neuroscientist who's also a musician to try to understand, okay, like what's really going on in the brain when certain music happens. And furthermore, and he kept us really honest. We had a long consultancy with him, and it was fascinating. We asked him, okay, case in point, is music only good for you if you like that style of music? No. There are instances where you want to have music that corresponds to your personal tastes. However, with a few specific things, there are long, hardwired, deep biological instincts that happen when you have, like soft, like a mother singing to a son quietly, or when you hear, loud sounds and things like that. They have biological hardwired things in our brains that go back eons. And he said, the science is proving more and more that in a few instances, you can actually curate music that biologically gives you the results you want. So we were like, okay, we leaned in. We tell us more. We want to do this with integrity. There's a lot of kind of throw spaghetti at the wall kind of wellness playlists out there. And I'm sure that in many cases they work great for people, but we didn't want to throw spaghetti at the wall. We wanted to say, okay, hey, how do we do this? Can we do this properly? And he said, yeah, you can do it for sleep. You can do it for meditation. You can do it for relaxation, and you can do it for focus. And actually, we're in the unique case where we're not only curating music for fitness and wellness customers, which we can get into in a little bit, but we actually have a whole bunch of music producers that create music for us. So we're at this really unique intersection. And Mike's the boss of that whole effort. It's our Feed Originals. And maybe, Mike, you could talk a little bit about, what does wellness music mean to you? And you can be dead real. You can say, oh, man, sometimes getting this stuff styled hard, but you work real hard on it. So tell me a little bit about how do you do that as a commissioning person?
Well, I mean, I feel like, we've got our own Feed Originals music catalog. And what we're doing is we take a lot of the learnings and the stylistic guidelines that we got from our friend at Stanford, the good doctor. And, it's about taking that information and turning around and speaking to the producers and composers that we're working with. We've got, a strong stable of high profile producers and composers working on music for us. And we say, look, create stuff like that, like use these guidelines. And sometimes it's a little bit tough because it's I don't want to say counterintuitive, but just for an example of like a producer's creating a say a pop track. Your instinct is to start it off small and then build the instrumentation and build, make the choruses bigger and the ending has this big crescendo. Well, with some of this, functional wellness music, it's the opposite. You want to start the music a little bit busier to kind of meet where the listener's head space is at the time. And then you slowly start to pull some of the instrumentation back. And at the end, you're maybe hearing one single note or some brown noise if you're trying to maybe create sleep induction music, for example. So having that communication with the producers and trying to explain it to them is sometimes challenging. But once they get the hang of it, we've got a catalog of thousands of songs now.
Yeah, and we frequently and with our other curation colleagues, we're having conversations about give me more of this, give me less of that. And so, because we curate from all the music that's commercially available that you can listen to on Spotify and everything like that. Well, we have a couple licensing outliers, but we can use all of that music. And we have Mike and these exceptional producers. So we're frequently back and forth. We're doing QA, we're listening to it, we needle drop into a track. Juan is curating for customer X, and we need more nature sounds for them, or we need more ambient music for them. So it's an ongoing dialogue that's forced us to become pretty fluent on what the wellness music is that works. And I think a really great example of that, because we have, and one more context, is that we have tons of amazing fitness customers like one Active Pair. And I'm going to mention Active Pair because they have all kinds of workout programs you might want to do. Fantastic instructors, as with all of our customers, doing exceptional stuff. We get to curate their music, which is a real privilege. And 2 years ago with this wellness stuff, we said, hey, could you try one of our meditation stations? And could you kind of like A/B tested in the market, right? How does that do compared to the normal stations? And it did really well. So we already could tell with fitness customers, okay, they can use our stuff. But then the far end of the other spectrum, can you speak a little bit about Alpha Beats, Juan? Because they're highly sophisticated health business, and how have we worked with them?
Yeah. Well, when we first started, it was really about matching the music with what they had. And they had this incredible device, which is a headband, and it's an EKG reader, reads like, brain waves. And so we were able to, first off, one of the great things about working at Feed is obviously having Feed originals. And so we already started off in a really good position as far as like servicing the music that they needed. But then, they obviously had more things that they needed. And it was easy enough as me just contacting Mike and Mike getting the type of music that they needed. And it worked really well.
Yeah, it's such a unique position that we're in, that we not only can curate with tracks that are out there, but we can go out and create and ask the producers to come back with specific music for all of these different use cases. So yeah, puts us in a very, very unique place that, music is just, it's such a powerful tool, right? And we've got articles on articles and previous episodes about, how music affects your brain and why music works. And it's such an amazing medium because it's accessible, right? Like music is a very accessible tool to use. And when you dial it in, it can do so many different things, right? It amps you up for a workout. It chills you out if you need to relax. It can help you go to sleep. It's great for, finding music that helps put kids to sleep, yourself to sleep, to focus. We all, have our different versions of focus music while we're working during the day. So it's such an amazing tool that when you look at music beyond entertainment, right, it can serve some really helpful and important functions. And it's been really great to learn more about the science behind it, creating this music for it, and dialing it in and saying, again, new age music, been around for a long time, also thought is healing music and has been used in meditation practices and other things like that. But again, to Stenz's point, in the last 20 years, the amount of scientific research that has come in to help show the proven benefits of certain types of music and styles of rhythms and tones has really allowed professionals such as yourselves to, dial it in and get maximum results with it.
I think, and one thing that, we can nerd out a lot and with a lot of joy about, why does tone do certain things to you when you hear it, or rhythm do certain things to you when you hear it. But I think the greatest value proposition that we bring to our business customers is that we make it dead easy. So, we understand to the extent we need to the biology. We understand what that means in musical terms, and we have professional, composers that can even do this stuff. You don't have to understand any of that. All you need to understand is that there is a huge need out in the world for, cost-effective, and with no side effects, wellness, help to people into people's lives, right? And so we'll do the hard work. So we know, if your end users maybe want some help with their sleep, just press play, right? If you need help with focus, just press play, right? And there's a lot of stuff on Spotify and elsewhere that might work for you, and that's great. We're not taking anything from it. Mm-hmm. We're also trying to be value added into what those playlists are, so we can really refine it down to these specific things. And I'll just use one example. My wife actually teaches in the public school systems, and Melissa created these amazing like relaxation playlists on YouTube using all this Feed Originals catalog. She brought that into her classroom with the kids, and it was like incredible. Just press play, the kids chill down. They didn't know they were listening to a focus station, but she market tested it in the classroom, and all these little kindergarten and third graders calmed down, started coloring and doing their stuff because biologically they were getting the signal and it calmed them down. Yeah, so that's really the joy that we have of, we can do that hard work for you with regards to whether it's fitness or wellness. And I don't want to take up too much airtime, but I know Melissa, you and I and Mike are working hard, well, all of us, on launching our wellness more broadly. So I think we should talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, I think, not only do we make it easy, and we've always, worked for our customers to create, custom stations and tailor things to brand, but we're also working on creating more widely helpful packages, right? And I think, yes, there's a lot of wellness music out there. And if you are a wellness brand and you're interfacing with your customers in digital environments, you may think, oh, they're probably going to listen to their own music while they do this. But, there's a lot out there to choose from. And I think more and more in today's world where there's so much information and there's so much content, you get a little user fatigue, right? Like there can be too many choices. And so for brands that are working in wellness and fitness, there's a huge value add for your customers to be able to say, hey, we took the time to get the right sounds for you for this application. You don't have to dig through your playlist. You don't have to go into some other app or some other function to find music. Like, this will work for this purpose. And there's such a big value in taking away the, too many choices for customers while giving them, obviously some ways to dial it in, and just creating these very intentional soundscapes that complement whatever you are offering them. Anything else that you guys want to add about curating around these stations, or maybe Stens, kind of went into some of these collections that we're making more easily available?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll add is that, and you'll hear, sometimes Enya, you might hear some of these, masterful older new age artists in our stations. So we're not casting shade on the forefathers and foremothers of this style of music, right? New age has evolved. New age has grown up, and you don't necessarily have to put cheese on your broccoli because we've got some new fresher vegetables too if you want something different. I mean, on the subject of that goes, we have these 4 types. We have sleep, meditation, relaxation, and focus. These are the ones thus far that the science has said it works from a biological standpoint.
As well as fitness too, like on the flip side.
Well, heck yeah, we do fitness all day long. Yeah, no, if you want to do fitness, any music on the planet we'll curate for you. But in terms of wellness and those things, we're going to be launching some major label versions of it too. So we're going to be able to start using, Bonobo, Air, SZA, Ed Sheeran. Like, how do we curate music in these wellness spaces? So we're expanding our wellness collections so our customers can get, an 8 or 9 station pack off the shelf that has these science-backed things that Mike does all day long, and then and more so.
And it'll be really exciting to see how that amplifies engagement, right? Because we also know that familiar music is so powerful. That's why when you look at what we're curating on the fitness side, there's so much throwback, and there's, people gravitate towards things that are, familiar and nostalgic. So it'll be really interesting to see as we, continue to craft these packages, how that engagement, fluctuates between known and unknown artists, while all of them will, are curated to the same end result. It gives a little added benefit when people can say, oh yeah, that's a familiar song for me. I'd love to kind of wrap up and just go around and talk about maybe, since we started working in wellness music and functional music, what has been maybe the biggest surprise to each of you through our learnings and our research and putting these stations into play. Putting you guys on the spot. I know, I'm sorry.
Well, I will say one of the most surprising things is how hard it is to do. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly falling asleep at some of these playlists, right? Like, and I think that's the intent, right? It's just that we're there going through all the tunnels, all the caves that have to go through in order to provide you that quality mix of songs. And yeah, sometimes that puts me to sleep, and like I gotta like struggle with the eyes and the screen. But I think in the end, the products that we're able to really build with our Feed Originals catalog and also the uniqueness of like how many, like, because you could say ambient, right? And ambient's a very large word, right? But like Mike was saying, right? Some stuff is super, like, at the beginning of it has a lot of stuff going on, right? At the end of it, not so much. Some stuff is not so much in the beginning, so much at the end. They're stylistically different, right? So some stuff works for, like, probably meditation in the morning, and some works meditation at night. It's like there's so many different functions that we have yet even to really, like, totally pin down. But that's what makes this work so exciting, but also so very hard.
Very nuanced.
Yes. Which I don't know how Mike is able to do it. Stay up all day going through.
I mean, Mike, what can you use your wizard example? Because that's like one of the greatest ever. The way you communicate. I mean, because you're not always talking to the producers in terms of like more harmonic, more diatonic, more less. You sometimes have to get really creative.
Yeah,
don't you?
I'm not one to really get too nerdy into the engineer speak, right? But sometimes there's one example where we had a composer, world class composer, is a session musician for high profile artists that everybody knows, and some of the tracks that he had made after we gave him some of the guidelines came in, and they were a little darker, and we needed it to be a little bit, I don't know, lighter. And I just kind of said, hey man, this stuff is giving wizard on the mountain during a lightning storm, and he's waving his wand and it's pouring rain, and I kind of need a little bit more giving music in the background when the soccer mom is at the spa after a long day with the kids getting a massage. And he was like, got it, and turned around and gave me exactly what I needed, and it was perfect. But yeah, those are the types of conversations that I have during the day, which is awesome.
Peeling back the curtain, you guys. Backstage pass here to making functional wellness music.
Yes.
I'll just quickly. I mean, it's a subtle art. It's subtle, Whereas usually the continuum of music is like this broad. We're talking about a continuum that's this broad, and we need variegation within it. And so I think, and one thing we haven't said is that we're using purely human generated music, okay, and purely human QA'd music. So AI is up and coming, and it's getting stronger, but it's not there yet. I mean, Mike and I have been listening to some of the generative music AI. We have, potential partners and stuff, and it's still it sounds a little bit like those, if you remember the toys in Toy Story 1, where there was the bully kid that like disassembled the toys and reassembled them, and they looked kind of like these creepy, Frankenstein dolls. The music's still it's not there yet. It's going to get there. But there's a subtle art to what we're doing here right now. It's fun and it's tricky, and I think we're really, really excited about getting more of it to our customers, because we know there's a huge need for wellness right there, in the world, and so we're lucky that we're in a position where we can not only use our ears to determine what music that's going to help people with certain outcomes. And also we have someone like Mike who can actually go, in layperson's terms, get these exceptional musicians to curate more of it. Help us help you. We're excited about that.
Awesome. And I'll just say, I certainly, I'm a longtime music listener and musician, and I listen a little bit differently. Like after all of the work that we did in the research, and I spend a lot of time listening to feed originals. And it's really been beneficial for me to dial in my own, what I'm listening to, and soundtrack my day and soundtrack my life in a way that helps get me where I'm going. So it's been a great ride so far, and looking forward to learning more. The longer we are at this and have more data coming back, the more we'll learn from it as well. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for, as always, sharing your expertise. Thanks to anyone tuning in to this Not Your Mom's New Age Music episode of Inside Music Curation. Again, we're the team at Feed Media Group. These guys are curating music for a wide variety of clients. We help get music into apps in a very intentional way to drive engagement in various apps. So check us out at feed.fm to learn more and subscribe. We'll be back next month talking more subjects on music curation. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.